We have with us moderating this session today Mr. Govind Rai, who's the CEO and co-founder of Insomniacs. To tell you all a little bit more about Govindji, he's had over 15 plus years of real estate experience in marketing and technology space. Govindji, as a pioneer in real estate, digital transformation, has built Insomniacs into India's leading AI-driven marketing and technology network, specializing in automated marketing mix modeling, leveraging AI, data analytics, and machine learning. He has transformed real estate marketing through automation-first solutions, positioning Insomniacs as a trusted partner for 100 plus brands across the entire country. A huge shout out for Govindji as well. A wonderful presenter, a wonderful speaker, and most importantly, somebody who's got that positive spirit and approach towards life. That's the kind of people we want, right? Give it up for him, please, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'll be introducing our speakers now in alphabetical order, and I'll request all of you to please join me over here on stage together after all the introductions are done. We have 5 speakers for the session. Our first speaker is Amit Goenka, founder, chairman, and managing director, Nisus Finance. Amit is the founder, chairman, and managing director of Nisus Finance Group, a premier alternative asset manager and lender with a current AUM of 1,700 crore. Under his leadership, Nisus Finance was listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange as the first publicly listed fund manager in the country. Amitji has managed transactions and assets over $6 billion spread over Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa, spread over hospitality, manufacturing, real estate, automotive, and other sectors as well. Amitji is here. Please give him a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody over here in this room, can I have some more energy going in, please? Thank you. Our next speaker, we have with us today the pleasure of having Angad Bedi, Managing Director, BCD Group. Angad Singh Bedi ji has been instrumental in the group's diversification into low-income housing, luxury residences, and corporate centers, as well as middle to affordable housing, thereby ensuring the delivery of exceptional commercial and residential spaces through strategic collaborative ventures. He also sits on the board of CII. A huge round of applause for Angad ji as well over here as he joins us. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, we have Chandan Kaur, partner and P&L head at NeoLiv. Chandan ji has more than 15 years of extensive experience in real estate and brings in-depth, nuanced knowledge of business planning, brand marketing, sales, business and product development, and customer centricity. NeoLiv is India's foremost fund-led developer, founded by Mohit Malhotra, 361, and industry experts. A huge round of applause for Chandan ji as well, please, as he joins us. When I say here, when I say loud, I truly mean it literally, but I don't hear it loud over here. Everybody over here, please make some noise. The second panel discussion. Thank you. We also have with us today Priya, Mathias. I hope I got the pronunciation right, ma'am. Pardon me if I don't, but then I got it right. I'm very happy. Okay. Priya Mathias, Executive Vice President, Head of Marketing and Communications, IndoSpace. Priya ji is a seasoned leader with over 20 years of experience in corporate strategy, marketing, and communications. She has a strong track record of building and elevating B2B and B2C brands, particularly in the hospitality, retail, and real estate industries, including luxury, residential, and commercial spaces. She has worked with some of the top most renowned names in the business, including GRI Club, Kalpataru Group, Hyatt Hotels, Intercontinental, the Leela Group, and of course, UTV. A huge shout out for Priya ji as well, as we welcome her over here. Thank you so much. We also have with us today the esteemed presence of Mr. Vishal Sharma, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, Raymond Realty. Vishal ji, over the last 2 decades, has worked across industries including real estate, aviation, and media, while overseeing multiple geographies in South Asia. Since the year 2016, Vishal ji has been a founding member and instrumental in establishing Raymond Limited Realty Division. He holds critical sales, marketing, pre-sales, and customer relationship management across all sectors. A huge round of applause for him as well, please, ladies and gentlemen. I truly mean it, and I can vouch for the fact this truly can't get better than this. A huge shout out, everybody, please. Thank you, and over to you, Govindji. Looking forward to another very fascinating panel from your end.
Okay, guys, so I'll not waste time because the timer is already clicking. One thing for all of you who are sitting here, let me tell you, it's most fascinating set of people that I have here. You talk about real estate, you talk about commercial, residential, logistics, we have it all. A new brand entering into the foray, here. A financial brand which has already created such a huge benchmarks, here. And then people playing on legacies are here as well. And there cannot be a better combination for me to moderate this panel. So thank you, Realty Plus team, for doing such a wonderful job. Let me get going. Crafting the future. One of the important part for this session, what I wanted to do was look at your projection on the first window, which is the website. So I actually went to a website and looked at what is it you are trying to convey to the world. Before we deep dive to the industry-specific questions, I wanted to actually take some time and ask you what I studied about your brand projections. Can I start now? Okay, so Vishal, I'll go with you first. I go to a website and it has 2 words, go beyond. What does it mean there? What is it you're trying to convey?
Thank you, Govind, for asking me this. Since 1925, Raymond has been in the forefront of innovation and customer experience. And since last 100 years, in every category we operate, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's apparels, FMCG, engineering, and now real estate, we have always thought about putting customer first. And whatever we do, we actually believe in going beyond the conventional boundaries. In fact, in 2019 also, when we started real estate, we always knew that we are the youngest kid on the block as far as the real estate industry is concerned. But we were very sure that we'll set our own benchmarks, we'll set our own rules, we'll go beyond the ordinary, we'll go and break every conventional boundaries which has been set by industry themselves. And if you look at what has happened after that, Raymond is the only brand in Maharashtra who's got a certificate for completing a project 2 years ahead of RERA schedule. So that's the impact of going beyond, and that's what one should do when it comes to handling customers and customer experiences.
Superb. Whatever that you answer, let me tell you, I have a great memory. I'm going to get back to you, asking more questions around it. And Amit sir, I'm going to go to you. I went to your website and I learned 2 words, infinite possibilities. How are you projecting? How is it connected to what you are actually doing and what you are, the real proposition around Nisus is?
We started our journey in a very uncertain time, 2013-14. A lot of chaos, irrational exuberance, irrational capital, thereby leading to NBFC failures, Demon, RERA, IBC, etc. So we were born in a VUCA world. And when we are born in a VUCA world, you have to explore every possibility that there is for you to be able to carve a space for yourself, a segment for yourself, which is sustainable, which reflects a certain ethos and can create a deep impact to the stakeholders. So that meant that we had to constantly push our boundaries and reinvent ourselves constantly. And that's when we talk about infinite possibilities. It's how we work, it's how we look at our businesses, it's how we react, it's our ethos. So we went from being a standard credit lender to being a distressed credit lender or a distressed asset player, and playing that entire segment from a brown field to a green field, from 4 cities to now covering entire Bharat across 11 cities, from being a resi only to being now all asset classes. So we've constantly explored our boundaries, we've constantly looked at every opportunity. So when we have 400 trades that walk into our office every year, we don't say no. So which basically means there's no template for our business. People say, what is it that you can invest into or lend into? I said, everything. If it makes sense, why not? We're happy to partner. So I think that's the whole concept of infinite possibilities, is that you're not contained in a certain silo. You're not boxed in a certain self-created ecosystem, but you're constantly expanding the boundaries and you're exploring the infinite possibilities, which is what India represents today for the rest of the world. This is what we are taking for real estate to India and for the rest of the world.
Beautiful. So I'll move to Priya. Your website I stumble upon largely this word called partnerships. 140 plus partnerships. Am I right there? Is that the projection where you really want to take pride into the partnership, the collaborative efforts that you are having, or the clients that you are catering to? Is it what you are projecting through your brand, or what's more?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Govind. That's probably the most important thing that we would like to communicate from our brand perspective. So the current philosophy of our brand, which is driven around linking the limitless. Okay, linking the limitless is basically talking about how we link the potential of today to the possibilities of tomorrow, what lies ahead, and always looking at it from the customer's point of view or the client's point of view. So like outside in, not inside out. So that's absolutely correct, and that's exactly what we want to thrive on, because a legacy only gets built by the kind of partnerships that we have, with our customers, with our investors, with our bankers, with our people. Most importantly, I think that's exactly what we want to communicate. So bang on.
Beautiful. So, Mr. Chandan, I'm going to come to you next. One of the things during his scan of profile, I stumbled upon that we graduated from the same college. It's just he graduated and I entered. That's the only difference. But then I'm going to come to that later. Your website has a very tangible value chain. If you really look at Go Beyond and Infinite Possibilities, partnerships, we can explore value chains in a larger way, the way we want to interpret it, and we can project it in a little more open terms. But on your narrative, it's very sharp. India's foremost fund-led real estate developers. Did I get it right?
Yes,
And
almost there.
what is it that you're trying to convey? Since you are a brand which is making a foray, you guys have had a great legacy of what you have done in the past. But now that you're coming out, a tangibility was the phenomena that you were chasing, and how are you trying to create a difference with the projection that you are leveraging at this point of time?
Yeah. Thank you, Govind. See, this is a question that we answer every second. As you rightly said, we are still building it. Okay, we are a bunch of people who had a dream. Okay, and the good part is that the entire organization is built on a foundation of professionals. It is very unique to this country now that professionals are building billion-dollar organizations, which was erstwhile limited to large families, and they built the foundation of the country. And we as professionals got this edge to learn from them and learn from the world and do it. So if you see our mantra, as the brand gets built in the consumer space, we are India's only integrated fund and development company. So we have our own equity fund. Resi equity in India, Amit sits here, knows very tough space. And when we started thinking about this 2 years back when Mohit moved on from Godrej, was what do we do which is starkly different and changing the level of the game? So we could have raised a fund, just a fund, and started doing the business. Or we could have entered as a developer, going back to the same cycle of wanting to raise funds through multiple means. But we married both. It took a lot of effort internally to decide on this platform. And that's where we thought that if we have to do it, let's do it for the country, not for what NeoLiv wants. So that's where you see India's foremost. So India foremost, then the fund, then the lead, and then the developer. So the country comes as, so we're doing it for, bringing that the Indian ecosystem can also, develop or bring a global brand who has the ability to raise capital, equity capital, and do development and then do asset management. So globally there are enough examples, and that's what the inspiration was. So if you see the order itself speaks about the way we want to run it. The brand will evolve, we are still building it. As we moved in the consumer space, we believe that we would be inspired by a lot of discussions that we had today. And you will see this entire foremost fund-led developer being morphed into what the consumer starts believing, which we will, release in few weeks or few months from now. But that's the premise of what, we have built it till now. Thank you.
Very thoughtful here. I'll get back to you, Angad. I'm going to come to you now. Legacy, trust, and purpose. 3 words that stood out for me. My question to you is not just an explainer, but how do you differentiate legacy as a word? Because there's Raymond talking legacy as well. As a customer, how do I differentiate? How do I have to judge legacy as a tangible value chain? Same on trust. What really is special around BCD Group where you're able to live the trust value chain? And purpose, I understood, it can be made very customized to what value chain is. But when these three words are the projection, how are you making the customers understand what are you standing for? How do you differentiate it?
Thank you, Govind. In fact, this journey of BCD has been out of the carpet for the past 2 years only, whereas the group has been there for 70 years. So I being fourth generation into the business, why we carefully chose to come out as a brand and to be perceived is because largely we were a B2B construction company. And over the 7 decades pre-partition time during the India-Pakistan being one, we were executing projects, having done projects like the Supreme Court of India, Delhi High Court. Till about early 2000, it was all about CPWDs, PWDs, the governments building the nation. Early 2000 is after globalization, when Finance Minister Manmohan Singh opened the economy, there was an influx of capital and people started getting into private real estate plays. That time we were looking at it from a global markets where the operations were higher than India. And mid 2000s is when I stepped in. We saw very turbulent times as well because there was a spike up from 2003 to 2008, slowdown from 2008 to 2013, then a deep down slowdown from 13 to 18. And COVID, I think it's a global phenomenon. Everybody realized that today demand outstrips supply. That's the point when we realized that there are two things which is going to be the next few decades of the business. One is your ability to construct. That comes in that we are doing the business that we have been core in doing, not doing a brand play in terms of our reputation or a balance sheet play. Development and real estate development and making people's home is about having the ability and knowledge to execute it right. Make the right home, give the quality, and that's what we have delivered 150 million square feet for others. Now comes as a point of time testing it on ourselves when we will be doing it better, stronger, faster. So the second thing which we did a lot of investments in the past half a decade, we realized that customer understands only brand. Brand stands for trust. Real estate is an asset class, not like an Apple or a Mercedes when you can walk into the showroom. Cost of capital is included into the cost of goods and you walk into the shelves and you take the product and come out. It's about taking somebody's money pre in the game to give a post delivery, and that's the basic fundamental nature of business. That we don't see it getting changed despite people trying to overhaul it or trying to turn it around because the cost of capital is too high. When you are holding somebody's money in your bank and then spending it to give him what is promised becomes a very high standards of trust which a consumer lays on to you. So the knowledge and the acumen, the zero debt background, 100% financial record in the company with a meticulously delivered portfolio becomes all of those words which you can put a name to it and you can put new names to it and you can put third new names to it, but ultimately it comes back to the testament of what has already been done and delivered and now just being presented out to the world.
Super. So that was quite insightful. I believe the idea was to give you the perspective of what these brands are standing for. Now let me go take a little bit of a deep dive. And Amit sir, I'm going to start with a very interesting question that I believe that I've framed for you. That is to do with the fact you get an opportunity to look at many P&Ls of lot of developers, as I've been told, and I know I'm right. Do you believe that the financial engineering has a role to play in terms of how the real estate developers can build a brand? When you look at the P&Ls as well, are you able to study the deviation basis of a brand having a certain projection? Because of that, they're getting a certain premium. Because of that, the velocity is good, and that reflects into the P&L. How does it really go? What's your takeaway? The financial engineering that they're leveraging, how is it helping them build a more sustainable brand in the future? If you could shed some light.
So obviously, when you work across a spectrum of players, across asset class, across geographies, and across stature or sizes or tiers, you do see certain fundamental differences. I think fiscal discipline very strongly stands out for the more organized or the more well-heeled players who have a very clear line of sight on how they're accounting receivables, what their inventory really is like, and how they're looking at leverage in their balance sheet versus their equity or their quasi-equity, and I call land banks a quasi-equity. So I think that's a very important aspect that we see, that there is a sense of continuity that one sees in balance sheets. When we go to the other set of players, we see a lot of broken chains, a lot of broken balance sheets, assets which are scattered, no continuum of thought, and therefore very, very disparate financial holdings. So very hard to consolidate, very hard to unlock, very hard to monetize, because either it's in multiple JVs with multiple people and multiple products with very, very different concepts and designs. So it's very hard to find a continuum there. And that's really when, it becomes a start-stop environment, which therefore necessitates a constant re-leveraging all the time to be able to meet those end objectives, because there's no continuum. There's no cross-leverage. There's no brand continuity or brand projection or aspiration which really comes out. And because of which there is lack of standardization. So brands have really followed standardization as a principle. When you, go and buy something from Vishal, you have a certain ethos in mind. You have a certain expectation. When you go to BCD, you have a certain expectation. So I think when brands put out their balance sheets and they put out their products, you see a lot of continuum, you see a lot of continuity, a lot of ability to forecast outcomes, which is harder in terms of other players who've basically just gone from project to project without thought on supply chain, without thought on how the next 5 or 10 years are going to play out for them. I get a piece of land, or I can collaborate to get a piece of land, make something quickly, make quick profits, try and monetize it in whichever way possible, go with the flavor of the season, because the next guy is building, let's do the same thing, venture into products, have very little understanding of whether it's hospitality or retail or commercial or what have you, because a lot of people are saying it's the next thing or the good thing to do. So I've seen so many of these models which have never survived. And obviously that requires a lot of structures to be able to eventually monetize it in somebody's hands. So obviously you've seen senior, junior lending, you've seen quasi-equities, and common stock, you've seen barters. So you've seen a plethora of combinations which are trying to make that asset eventually reach its goals or its goal post, which becomes sometimes very, very complex to even understand or unravel. Somebody's going to lose money at the end of the day because there are too many stakeholders who are all trying to maximize value within the same ecosystem. As far as we're concerned, we certainly believe that there is a unique solution because of these differences, a very unique solution that is applicable to every scenario that we encounter, because we're not doing standard run-of-the-mill investments. We're not saying anybody who comes in and wants construction finance at a certain stage, for a certain period of time, will get 13%, 12% money. No, that's not the idea. We're not a bank. Idea is not to behave like a bank. Idea is to problem solve with our capital. So when you're problem solving, and it could be for the biggest guys who have a very huge land bank, are trying to monetize some of it, trying to divest some of it, trying to recapitalize their balance sheet or whatever be the objective at that point in time. So when I look back, and if I look back on the last 2 years, we've done about 18, 19 investments, and surprisingly, Govind, every investment is unique. It's non-replicable, it's distinct, has its own structure, has its own set of partnerships, has its own set of complexities, and it's very hard for us to say, okay, we've done this, let's replicate the same thing in the other deal. So there's a lot of innovation required when it comes to actually structuring a trade, because what you're really trying to do is actually map out the cash flows within a particular asset class or a particular development and say, how are these cash flows going to meet a certain waterfall requirement? From construction, statutory, construction completion, then other third-party financing dues, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's really, and that differs, strangely, because everybody's trying to, especially when you look at non-standard developments or non-templatized developments, there'll be a lot of different assumptions that we come across. Somebody's, having multiple phases, or somebody's gone and done all the phases at once. You see so many different scenarios, and you have to try and model for that. So yeah, it's been interesting, and that's really the innovation is what we really bring out very, very clearly as a value proposition for our investee companies or for the markets, and saying, okay, and that innovation is not only limited to solving for a particular opportunity or a project, it's trying to see if we can solve at an enterprise level. Because we have all these complexities, and people have tried to either move geographies or go to other cities where they're less understanding of, and therefore have had challenges. So can we solve at an enterprise level? Can our capital solve for those issues as well? So I think that's a very interesting, which is again going back to the infinite possibilities, because typically an investor will only look at the opportunity presented. We try and go a step over and can we look at the enterprise level and see if there are optimization opportunities at a larger scale, which will obviously trickle down to this one opportunity as well.
Wait, so since Amit sir talked about the financials, the numbers, Priya, I'm going to come directly to you. Typically, when we are selling residential, even in commercial, the premiumization as a value chain, because of the aspirational factor, there's a value chain that is available, the branded player can leverage it, and by my thesis, brand eventually would lead to garner better premiums. Premiums would mean better margin, margin would mean sustainable brand. The space that you are operating in, isn't it very functional? How do you build a brand in the space which is very functional from, like, maybe I'm wrong, but please correct me. Do you really believe building a brand in the space that you're operating in, largely in logistics space, warehousing, there's a scope for having a premium margin play compared to a normal brand which is there just by side? How much of a premium that you're really believing that you can extract, and can that be built upon in the future to build more sustainable brand?
Sure, thank you. So I think I will use this opportunity probably to glamorize B2B a little bit.
Let's go for it.
So the first question that I keep getting asked by all my peers in the real estate community, hospitality and other industries is like, how good is B2B real estate business for marketing? And I've also heard a lot of other senior leadership, the CEOs and the CXOs of various companies ask the same question. At the end of the day, it's all about money, right? So I think what we need to probably talk about here primarily is from an IndoSpace perspective, and which is primarily into industrial and logistics real estate. We are today at 50 plus parks and 60 million square feet across India currently, the portfolio that we handle. In terms of actually the whole objective of actually telling that story in how we command premium from these customers is purely by providing services which are beyond what they can actually imagine. So there is nothing else that sets us apart from another competition, because it's everybody. We've got like 7 players, 8 players in the sector, and each competition is only giving probably almost the same features as well. So what we do is how can we actually help them grow their business going forward? How can we help them scale to other regions around the country? How do we give them more services that will add value to their business? So like I said in the first question that you asked me, it's all about the customers at the end of the day and what they seek for as a business. So that itself, it's long-term. Getting premium is a long-term objective, but it's purely based on the product and also the legacy to a certain extent, and the value that we provide over and above the product that we offer. Because it's not just a box, it's the services around the box, and the long-term services, the promptness of the services is something that really matters. So in getting
so on the service part, I'm going to get back. I'm keeping a note. If I get time, I'll come back. Vishal, my question to you, Raymond, 100-year-old brand, how tough it is to live that legacy when you're entering into a real estate, phenomena, and more importantly, do you see it as a detrimental factor? Suppose Chandan builds a brand as NeoLiv, he knows what is it I have to project. He's having a fresh board, but are you getting constrained, or is it only leverage on a good side, or there are some other side of the narratives that we may not see, but when you are going onto the whiteboard, you are looking at it. How are you weaving the legacy of 100 years into what you're doing now?
See, thanks Govind for asking me this, because see, if you look at the basic necessity of mankind, it's roti, kapda and makan. Roti, kapda hum de hi rahe the, makan we start just now. Not just now, in 2019 we forayed into real estate. And back then we were contemplating whether we should piggyback on a national, international brand like Raymond, or we should create something afresh. After a lot of due diligence, the choice was very obvious that yes, we should take this legacy forward, the legacy of 100 years, which is into trust, craftsmanship, excellence, and quality. Now, it cut both ways, because what is a benchmark for other developers becomes a hygiene for us. Like I gave you an example that, we gave a possession timeline of 5 years, which is not a huge timeline considering a 42-story, 10 towers project, 14 acres development. So 5 years is a very realistic timeline looking at 2 years of COVID. Now, you end up delivering the project in 3 years. So we got a certificate, we got accolades, we brought in Guru Randhavan and whatnot. We gave positions in style. And what happened, since we gave position of 5 towers were under construction, the people were like, why don't you stop construction? Let us live in peace. So it started cutting both ways. Now, we lived up to their expectations. We delivered much beyond their expectations. But then, since it's Raymond, it has to be like the lifestyle which we promised, the life and style. The both had to be delivered on ground, and which is a very challenging task. And what happens is, and thanks to organizations like yourself, customers have become extremely, extremely clever, and they know that they have a very, very dangerous tool in their hand, which is a Brahmastra of social media. Like, boss, if the housekeeping guy doesn't mop up their their floor, they want to tweet it on Twitter, and they want to tag chairman of the company. Now that's the expectation, that's the benchmark, and primarily it is because it is coming from the house of Raymond, and we are known for customer service. And having said that, see, being relevant for 100 years and still going strong, being leader in every category, it takes a lot of efforts, it takes a lot of innovation, maneuvering, a lot of agility in an organization like Raymond. And if you look at the two organizations within Raymond, Raymond being a 100-year-old group and Raymond Realty being a startup in the company, see, you need to balance the two. And it's a listed entity, so we have to manage customers outside also. Our customers are also shareholders, the promoters, the shareholders, the institutional investors, people who have believed in this, business. So we had to deliver on those grounds as well. We have to grow both in terms of value as well as volume. And very happy to share that in Thane, since 2019, we have been a market leader. Till now, every third home sold in Thane is a Raymond home. And February last year, we launched a project in Bandra. The same benchmark, coincidentally, is followed there as well. Every third home sold in Bandra micro market is also Raymond. So it's very difficult to live to those expectations. But all said and done, it all boils down to the basics, belief in yourself, believe in the brand, and do the right thing. If you put customer in the center and make your strategies around it, things will fall in place. Have good intentions. That's it.
Super.
Make your customers happy, as he said. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm picking up cutting it both ways as a narrative, and Angad, I'm coming to you. Your portfolio ranges from luxury to mid-segment to affordable. One of the largest challenges when we are building the brand, I believe, is to do with the fact how do we tell a customer that we are the guys who are making this affordable home as well, but at the same time, when you're building a luxury home, we should deserve a premium. How do you keep a balance between these two? Because even the hospitality industry, automobile industries, they all have found it very, very difficult to cater to this kind of a narrative. A Volkswagen will have an Audi, But then that's a very different names that they are creating. How do you curtail to this? Do you see that as an issue, building a brand over a period of time?
No, this is something I have personally spent a couple of years trying to think through it, and picking it up from where Vishal left it. The answer is that for every sub-segment, if you start creating new brands, and if you start distinguishing the parent brand to the separate verticals you are in, it becomes, first of all, confusing for the customer to know who he is dealing with, and the parentage is linked or not linked. Because if you would have seen last decade back, all the big players came into the markets and then they were operating in different, what we knew as the Benami names and all of it. So there was a loss of customer confidence also which happened in creating new entities, new names, and not being able to follow through. So when carefully understanding it, where it kind of fell down into it is that the parentage has to be linked. The confidence from leading from the front and having the main name along with it has to be there. And then you need to brand each vertical and entity. For example, we have a student housing which is called Edu City. We have a senior living which is called Vanaprastha. We have a blue collar where we have leased our 900 apartments to Apple, and then there are 9,000 women living. So we branded worker accommodation as Blue 9, and then project names. So each one becomes a distinct micro entity, like a project name you have, but then it has to be linked from the parent. But a business vertical, you can rename it in terms of the individuality of that business vertical. But yes, it is very challenging to say that within residential sector, whether can you have 4 sets of sub-brands. That is something for the sales and marketing team to do the job while selling the project.
I'll eat your brain outside then. Let's do this discussion. But thanks for your answer. Chandan, I'm going to come to you. I'm very interested. While you guys were discussing that नया real estate brand launch करना है, आप लोगों ने problem समझ ली, and I believe you already told India first and then the fund, right? How do you believe this projection is helping you or is going to help you from the customer perspective, right? Because any new brand which comes to the, into the market, the biggest challenge is how do I make customer believe that I'm going to deliver? For those who have already delivered, that's a fact which everybody knows. But for a new brand, how do you believe that this positioning is going to change the perspective if it would have come as a typical traditional developer vis-a-vis this one? Was that the thought process? That's the reason that you really looked at it, that okay, this trust part, let's fill it up by having this projection? Or there was more, because you wanted larger control as a business logic as well, where you really wanted to build a sustainable brand. What was the thought process of creating this after studying whatever the traditional brands were doing? How did you guys go about it?
Yeah, thanks, Govind. See, we had a very simple thought of how the consumer starts thinking about our category, when he starts thinking about it, right? All of us think about a home or an office, the entire asset class at some point of time, and we get prepared for it. And we start jotting down our own list of what we need. So the first thing that we noted was capital. All of us, let's go back and start thinking, I want to buy a house somewhere. You will first go back to your capital, right? You won't just see that he's buying it, so I should buy. Then you will list down how do you fill the gap of whatever the capital gap is required. You need a house at a certain place, certain space, but it's a little far off. And then eventually, how do you want to live your life in that new asset or the owned asset for years forward? Okay. So we created this, internal benchmark called capital to customer. Okay. And that's where the entire journey started, that we would do an entire 360-degree environment. Okay. We'll raise our own money. That's where the equity fund came in. That's where the SEBI approval came in. It brings a lot of credibility. It brings a lot of governance responsibility. If you see till 2010, 12, corporate brands, were not there. Okay. Now someday some corporate thought we should go ahead. Okay. In our erstwhile organization, we were the ones who started thinking largely in Godrej that we should play it big now. Okay. And interestingly, we wanted to expand into a new market. Sure. And everybody who advised us at that point of time, including the chairman's office, said this new market is very complex and very unpredictable. It was one of new markets in the NCR region. NCR itself, it looks like unpredictable, but within that also there are micro markets which are completely. And in our final board approval meeting, we were told that this is not going to help. Okay. What we did a dipstick of how the brand is being perceived. And it was such a big eye-opener. People didn't know that real estate is synced to that brand. They still believed it is linked to the old age thought of being an Almira brand. Okay, the dipstick showed us that only 2% people understood that a brand like this can develop homes. Okay. It looks very unlikely today when we talk about it, okay, 10 years from now, that people's thinking in that way. And that's where we started thinking that what would people think about us 10 years from now? Okay, they'll believe in the fact that we raised our capital first. We used that equity capital to build homes. Because the capital is available, the constraint is not there. And we'll build homes with 3 pillars. One is people, which are us, people who are building it. The way we talk to people, the way we service them. Then a product. We are today able to define or design products without any constraint because we do not have the pressure of a quarterly result. Okay. And the last is a service excellence, which we feel that would be the difference between the premium that brands today and future would be able to command. Okay. So in 10 years, corporate brands have shown that you can trust us, we'll deliver. Some products are great, some are not. Within that circle also. We believe that 10 years from now, someone like us, who has equity backing, who has development expertise, because all professionals have set up. The partners team at NeoLiv has 100+ years of on-ground execution experience. Each one of us have, it's a Hindi saying that ki, mitti mein haath hai, And then, we'll also would have established a certain level of service competence and excellence. Why? Because we are investing into it. So we go through the entire value chain, and we believe that 10 years from now, maybe 7 years from now, we will evolve as a country who will be highly service-oriented, and people will pay for the service. Today, Indians don't pay for service. Globally, people pay for service a lot. Product and service almost are at equal premium now. We believe that that's where the next opportunity lies, and that's where we think that brands per se would be defined by the service that they're able to provide, and a name would add up to it, but that's where we are heading to. Thank you.
Great. So Chandan, what you spoke upon, let me ask you the next question. Since we have a very limited time, I'm going to put it all to all of you, and quickly if you can respond. Taking inspiration from what Chandan is doing, tomorrow I want to be a developer. I don't want to be, but then let's assume for a while, I want to be a developer. I've got 100 crore. My project value chain that I need to deliver is, the top line could be 400 crore. How should I go about looking at it? Because my largest paradox is, I know if I have to build a brand, there will be a expense that would go because I don't have a legacy as of now. So should I invest there? Or should I wait out, deliver my first project, let my delivery let my quality become the conversation around the brand that I want to create? But that's going to be a 4 years journey. How should I go about hitting this problem? I hope you understand the paradox. It's a regular, every developer is going through this. Typically, I know those smart ones are taking a certain route, those who do not believe in it are taking a certain route, but what's your take? Since we are discussing branding, in the forum, I really want to understand how would you guys go about it. So who wants to start? Vishal, you want to go?
The way you are thinking, Govind, don't become a developer.
I will never become a
It
developer.
doesn't work like that.
I promise
See,
you.
brands cannot be built through advertising. It's a misnomer that great ad will become a replacement or a, substitute of a very bad product idea. It can never happen, okay? Only if you have $1 million idea which will actually solve the real customer issue, you will be able to make a fabulous product. And then, like I said, put customer first, build your strategies around it, deliver customer experience on ground, actually get the real feedback, improvise, innovate, because yes, you will fail, but if you're a startup, you have to fail fast and fail cheap. You can't make very costly mistakes. And then brand will get built over a period of time. Advertising comes last. You are coming, you are putting advertising first.
No, not at all, not at all. So I'll tell you the paradox. So let me tell you, Amit sir ने मेरे को मदद कर दी 100 करोड़ आ गए, ठीक है? Let's look at that.
See, I'll
Okay.
simplify it.
Yeah.
400 is your top line.
Yeah.
Builders work on a 25%. That means your cost is 300.
Yep.
Drop down 75.
Yeah,
You already got 100. That's your equity in the game.
fair,
You can go 1:2, debt is to equity, raise 200 from the bank.
fair.
That's a lot of big boys are doing for valuation.
Of course.
You
yeah.
have 300. 300 may you build the product. Once you build the product, demand is there, it'll get sold.
Now look at this from a point of view. I'm in Bandra, where all these people, all the big guys are already there. Should I cut my price and try to sell so that roll my cash flows? Or should I actually work around how they are coming to the market? They're actually behaving as a branded player with the narrative that they put in. What's the right way?
Ultimately, the nutshell of everything is delivery in real estate. If you are able to take the delivery fastest to the doorstep to the customer, the price point becomes secondary, the quality and the key to the home, which becomes the security of the financial access having a closure. Those are the two big wins. Once you are able to achieve those two, then it's a rollerball.
Chandan, I would want you to take my side if possible, right? What Vishal said, that it's going to be a disaster. But I learned it from you, right? Before you guys came out, you had a hoarding in the airports, right? Marketing yourself. What was the thought process?
See, that hoarding was kept for a particular reason, it's a tactical reason, not for a brand promotion. Why? Because we were raising capital then, and we have someone with us, Amit, who knows this, because we've been engaging together. See, it's something which any brand is a personality made out of a simple logic that if you're honest, people will accept you, give you time, give you space. Now, how fast you want to capture the space is where all the advertising comes. Some people do it the right way. They want to build the product, show it to the market, then put money on advertising. Some people do advertising first. They create that wow, and bots start talking to customers. There's no relationship being built. But yes, there is enough space for new age brands to come up. Thankfully, our country's fabric is changing. We are willing to experiment to a lot of new things. And if you're honest about it, you go back to the consumer, go back to the market. So we have two sets of consumers, okay? Someone who's invested in a fund, and somebody who's buy a product, okay? So we have a relationship, both the sides. Honesty is something, which will give us that premium, which will make people accept us as a brand. And we want to build it, at a pace that, it is believable and sustainable. So, with a difference of opinion, I should say you should venture out.
I will never do that. I'm happy working with
really
the
more than
developers.
happy to, support you or anyone else. It's a great time to be in this country. So let's try and build the country again.
True.
And that's what we believe. Thank you.
Sure. And Amit sir, Angad and Priya, very quickly, since Tripti is already looking at me, I can see that. I don't want, and Sapna is already telling I'm late. So I'm going to keep it quick. The same line. Branding narrative, what are the attributes going forward, the new people who are coming to the foray? Doesn't matter, means they have to just advertise. What are the value chains that they can pick upon? Just the way they have picked up fund-led narrative, India's fund-led, which gives a confidence to the customer that paisa hai, and these guys are not going to have any issues in the delivery. What are the other attributes that we can pick from if somebody's coming new, which could be an attribute for the branding exercise, which could be totally unique?
So Govind, I think a very important point, and again, with consolidation, brand ethos is becoming very important, because people are increasingly skeptical of run-of-the-mill players, new startups, etc., and are harder to trust. There's been enough money which has got burnt across country. We've seen enough examples in NCR and other markets where people have eroded trust on development entities. So I think it's important to obviously project what is it that is going to endeavor to bring the trust into a particular project. So I think his point, which is fastest delivery, I think is very important, because I think that's really where hard-earned money is going to be placed on a trust of delivery. I think it's a very important factor, because you obviously at the point of sale you've already demonstrated the features of the product. Okay, which is obviously based on a certain demographic profile or demand, etc. So I think delivery becomes very important, and I've seen a lot of people with extraordinary amount of work in actually making that communication real time. You've got cameras, live feeds going out on websites, on social media, which says, I can tell you number of days to delivery. I've seen clocks being put on towers saying number of days, countdown to delivery. I think very powerful messaging on, we're very focused on ensuring you get the right product in the right time. So I think that's very important, is what is the messaging that is going out, and or are you just telling brochure-led stories? I don't think there's enough space for that. I think very important factor. Second, of course, is transparency. Can you ensure that every information spec is available on RERA, on your website, on your sales office, with the investors, with the consumers, with the lenders, with the banks? I think most people tend to behave like a black box. We'll do it when the time comes. But very hard for people to give a very transparent demonstration of actual live data, on real time. Very hard to even get RERA data being filed quarterly, which is a compliance requirement. So I think that's another factor, is that we're actually open to transparency. Another very important factor, because till you actually build that trust or that brand ethos where people say, I trust you because you've demonstrated these properties year on year, quarter on quarter, product by product, and therefore I now don't need to get into that information, rigmarole to be able to place my trust on you, which is what he's built, which is what they built, but or what Angad has built. But then for a new player, I think it's important that transparency, governance, very, very important, putting out your deliverables in the face, saying, if this is the quality, here's the sample house. This is exactly the materials I'm using. Come and see my warehouse. These are the materials I'm storing, which is going to get put out. So when you bring that level of exposure of your practices, I think you're creating a very, very, very solid, and I think that's really the kind of people you funded. Were new, but had a fantastic professional and a very, very well-oiled ecosystem of bringing information to the fore, of creating real-time connectivity with all stakeholders.
Beautiful. So, Angad, your project is running. Beside that, a plot is there. I bought it now. I'm trying to be a developer. Already the premise is set. The angle is, what do I communicate where the customers who's actually coming to you might end up booking at me? Where exactly? What is that one attribute that you believe could be a narrative for a new guy to pick up on to compete with a legacy brand like yours?
See, ideally it should be...
Yeah, you can say that you cannot beat me, I understand, but then give me something.
Ideally it should be, don't get the thing, this is your check in advance of your money back. So that's the biggest bold statement one can put it out there. A PDC back to you saying that you are trusting me on a deferred cash flow. This is a one-time thing which will come back.
Beautiful.
And take your money back. That's trust.
Absolutely.
But
beautiful.
how many people will be able to follow through with that is the bold testament.
Absolutely beautiful. And Priya, service as a differentiator, do you believe in the space like yours is technology which is solving the problem on the service side and elevating the premium? How are you actually creating the differentiation around the service to get that premium play?
Value-driven branding is something that we should probably focus on from a sector perspective that I'm handling currently. And I think all across, what happens is to get the premiumness. When I say services, it's value-added services at the site for the customers. It's also got to, what is it that you can give them over and above what they're seeing physically? Because like residential and commercial buildings, we also sell on the basis of our land, right? The location. Yeah. So it's a location that actually sells. And once they buy into the location, it's all about actually giving them. Yeah. So we use technology like aerial surveys, like drone surveys, which can actually give you like a clear idea on where you've invested, what you're doing with it, what is happening in that project at that time, the construction progress. We also have technology like the Falcon app, which is for quality and safety. So we use that for our construction purposes, building automation systems, obviously. And we also have a customer app, which is given to the end customer, the warehouse managers, who can use the app at any point in time, 24/7, all the escalation metrics, everything works there and it's immediate. So right from billing to issues at the site, because we manage the project as well. So IndoSpace as a brand, we manage the entire infrastructure, the services at the park as well. So that's what we do.
Kudos to you guys. And thanks a ton for your response. And thanks a ton Realty Plus team. I'm not going to take more time. वो मेरे check में से एक zero हटा देते हैं every 10 minutes में बढ़ाता हूँ तो. So please make sure do not deduct my money, right? Okay, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot, guys, for wonderful responses. I hope the audience got to learn because I had a great amount of learning. And kudos to the responses that you guys gave. Thanks a lot, guys. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Fascinating session indeed. बहुत सारे लोग हैं यहाँ पे और जोर से. Can we please clap and appreciate this wonderful session? Thank you so much.